Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Futures Brizio here, 1:45 p.m. on Friday, October 18th. Hope you had a great week. And just wanted to just provide a little mid-afternoon update here. Markets were overall a little quiet today. We had a little bit of volatility, but kind of like a typical Friday, to be honest. So I just want to provide a quick overview and a quick review. I did make a video last night, pretty long one, about 45 minutes, on using the standard deviation channel / linear regression channel and how that kind of compares against just using a regular equidistance channel, which is kind of like the old school version, and just talking about how to use things like standard deviations and how you can use that type of channel for a little bit more preciseness and a little bit more technicality. So go back and watch that because I'm going to show channels here in this video, so check it out. And as always, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel before we get started, and of course, questions or comments, leave them down below. So let's just jump right in. And so let's start. This is copper, the 1 hour chart of December copper. And you can see last night price was trending up back towards this line, and I was saying that I was, potentially looking for a sell signal to take this short again. Now you can see kind of what's happened here, and like I mentioned, guys, you can't just use these channels in a total vacuum. I just have the regular equidistance channel on here, which is just the one that you kind of manually draw in, and this is how I have it positioned. And you can see it is up at the upper bounds of this channel, and we have been in a downtrend. So this is theoretically a great place to look for a short position. Price, you can see, came up to the channel through this wick, tried to go down, failed, went up, retested this high, failed there, tried to come back, failed again. And so we've basically just been trading inside this range literally since the beginning of the session. So this is the 1 hour chart. And if you look to the left, we have this swing high. This was the last swing high on this correction before this low was put in. So obviously this is a very important area. So that's this larger red line that represents kind of market structure. And then this little minor red line is basically this internal structure that I'd have to see broken if I wanted to think about going short in here. Now, like I said last night, you could just go short straight away here, and it would be a relatively low-risk trade if you went short straight away and just put your stop, a couple of points above this large red line, and if it broke through here, fine, then you'd be out with a small loss. But being that it's Friday and heading into a weekend, I'm not really keen in doing that. If this was not a Friday, I actually might consider doing that. But besides that, price is in an interesting area because you can see it is trading basically above this upper channel line now, and it's just kind of chopping around. So if, again, we come up and take out this structure here pretty decisively, then we're probably going to turn and go higher. But if this area holds and then we can, again, break below this small internal structure line right here, then I think this downtrend will resume. But you can see there's a lot of push and pull going on right now. The market's pretty happy with this level, and neither the buyers nor the sellers are really gaining any advantage here. But this is a key area to watch in this market because of, again, in a downtrend, price back at the top of the channel, kind of challenging a recent structure area. So are we going to break through, take out that structure and turn higher? Or are we going to, finally the sellers grab control again and push this back towards new lows? And if it does take out this area and start heading lower, I think we will make new lows. So that's copper. So that'd be the one I'd probably watch the closest going into next week. Switching over to oil. I was hoping to see oil make a little bit more progress last night in the video I made last night, back towards the upper end of this channel line. Again, this is in a downtrend, but it didn't really get there. It just kind of chopped around in here, and it did break to new lows, but it didn't get very far. I mean, if you look at where the low it made compared to these lows, this is only a 1 hour chart. This is not a big movement, and then price quickly snapped back. So I did want to point out where this green arrow is. Now, I'm not a big fair value gap imbalance aficionado here, but as I do look at this, There is a large imbalance candle sitting here, so, and there's probably a lot of retail liquidity sitting just above these highs. Anybody that maybe went short and is holding those positions probably has stop losses sitting just above all of this chop right in here. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see price kind of push through here, take out all this liquidity, fill this imbalance over here, and then maybe turn lower, which also does kind of coincide with the intersection of this upper trend line in the channel. So you could possibly see something like this. Now, it doesn't mean it will. Again, I always say, I really hate to try to predict things, because this could just easily roll over and just keep going down from here now that we've taken out this structure. But for those of you that like imbalances and fair value gaps, this is clearly one right here that has not been filled. So again, we'll see what happens. But I didn't take this short because, again, I wanted to see this move back further towards the upper line. I don't have the, this is the regular equidistance channel. It's not the standard deviation chart. So, but if I put it on here, you probably would see that median line cut right through here. And that's not really an ideal place. It's just a lower risk to reward potential versus having it come to the extremes of the channel before I enter. So, so if I miss a trade like that, then, so be it. So that's what I'm looking for with oil. I'm expecting potentially a further rally back up to fill this gap. And then we'll have to see where it kind of tops out. But there is a chance that if the selling is strong enough, this could just roll over from here next week and keep going down. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of a push higher to try to knock out some of this liquidity sitting up here. So let's see what happens. So on the ES, the S&P, I did take a trade on here this morning, which I'm now out of. And basically I took it up to, this median line. I was going to think about holding it, but I don't like to hold these through the weekend. And price clearly was running out of momentum as it was getting up here towards the median line. And it is Friday, so I just took it off the board. There's just no price momentum behind it, being that it's a Friday. But clearly we're holding this channel, and I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to make a new high into this area next week. Again, as long as this lower boundary lows are being respected, which they are. You can see every time it tries to come through here, it wicks out, wicks out, wicks out. And this is the 1 hour chart, and this area holds, and this channel holds really well, and price goes up again. We just don't have a lot of momentum. I'm assuming because it's Friday afternoon, and that's why, and not that this is going to reverse, but we'll see. If price comes down next week and then breaks through here, as I was mentioning last night, it comes down, then comes up, retests this area as resistance. So in other words, breaks through, takes out a structure, and then comes back up and maybe retests it as resistance and then heads down. That's a possibility. Or we just, maybe pull back and then just keep going up, making new highs. So I have to see, but this is not an ideal place for me to trade, close to this median line. Again, I like to trade from the extremes, as I was saying last night. So that's the status on the ES. And then finally on natural gas, similar to oil, I was hoping to see price come back and retest this channel line a little closer. This is the 1 hour chart, but it didn't. It just, much like oil, it just kind of chopped through this retail zone and then did go down, made a new low. Again, it's stalled out exactly at the lower part of this channel line. These things really do contain price very well. And again, we could have a situation where, again, price comes up and retest this here, comes out. Maybe there's probably a lot of retail liquidity sitting above this area to have price come up. There is a swing high. This was like the last little correction before this low was made. So if price decides to break through this box and then up above this channel line, then I'd probably wait for a retest and then a move higher. There is potential imbalance sitting up here that hasn't been filled, although we did have this wick that may have filled this. So that's why I'm looking at this area as kind of a key area. If price comes up here and just it stays contained inside of here, then probably we're going to keep going lower. But if we bust through here, then I'd wait for a retest of the trend line as support and then to move higher. So kind of the opposite of what we saw with the ES. So, to see price come up, with strong bullish momentum, take out this price structure here and then, some kind of retest, attempt to get back into the channel. And if that fails and it doesn't do it, then, a move higher. So, and then in which case would change my bias on this to long. But right now, we don't have that. We're obviously sitting at the low, and there's no trade in there if you're following the trend. Now, as I also mentioned last night, it is possible if you're so inclined to do that you could take a long position off of this lower end of the channel just to play the reversion back into the channel. Again, that would go against the trend. Which is down, but potentially, you could look to, to go long in here and then trade it at least back to the median. This is where the standard deviation line indicator would probably be better because it would show that median line, and you could at least target the median line, if not the opposite end. Because again, when you're going against the trend, it might go all the way to the other side like this did, but you might only go like halfway like this one did. So, because the trend is down. So using that standard deviation indicator, you'd have that middle line, and you could use that as like at least a trade management point, if not a profit target on a long, if this decides to go higher. Which it probably will at least bounce. So if we put the let me put this on here. Let's just do that. So yeah. So let's say we wanted to trade. Gotta fix this line. I moved it by accident. Okay. And we've got to fix this standard deviation line. Change the parameter on there. Let's just lower it a little bit. Try to make it a little tighter. Okay. So we'll just leave it like that. So a potential trade idea, if you wanted to trade a counter trend trade, would be to, again, go long off of this lower boundary, and your initial target would be back to the median line. You can see that's exactly where we went here before we broke lower. And then, you could manage it from there, and then maybe have a higher target back at the other end of the channel at this upper boundary up here. Okay, so that's a possibility too, much like we had right here. But again, that doesn't always work, right? Because we had that happen here, right, where price went down, went sideways, went down, made a new low, and then we finally moved higher. But we had one here, it only went back to the midpoint, went lower. We had this one here, this one worked. Then we had this one here, only went to the midpoint and went lower. So, that's why I said these are counter trend trades, and you have to not be too, greedy with your profit targets, and understand if you're trading against the trend, the momentum is against you. And so depending how hard the sellers want to come back in, you may have to take a smaller profit, or at least be willing to let the trade come up to this middle line and then manage it, and then move up your stop loss to break even at that point, and then hope that it runs back up to the other side. And then that would be okay. Like kind of like what it did right here and right here. Okay, but it didn't do it here. It didn't do it here or here. Okay, so and again, it's because it's against the trend. So, all right. So yeah, that's the markets. Just jumping over to the cash markets again. I look at the cash market. So I don't draw the channels on here so much. I'm just more looking at trends, and they do all kind of line up with the futures. Here's copper with this trend line. This is what I was showing you on copper, that potentially we have this interesting area where price is above the trend line. So what's it going to do? Are we going to break higher now, or are we going to fall back into the zone? Everything else looks very much like the futures charts, which are good. which helps me just kind of feel better about my analysis here on the futures charts, because they line up pretty well in terms of projections and what I expect things to do in the CFD cash markets. So, all right. So yeah, so I'm going to leave it there, guys. Just the afternoon wrap up. Like I said, the only trade I took was that short-term long in ES, and that's it. I didn't trade any of these other ones today. I'll continue to monitor these, and let's see what happens with this one, just as an example, right? To see whether from this lower channel line that this, do we get a bounce, and how far does the bounce go? Okay, so we'll try to remember that for next week. Whether this is going to go up and back to this midline, or whether we're going to go back to the other side as it shows here, or what we're going to do, and we'll just have to see. So I'll leave it there, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. Again, like the channel or subscribe to the channel, like the video. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week. All right, thanks.